Well, good Monday morning to you and happy 4th of July. This is our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition on Callan Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We are here live this morning on this Independence Day, and we thought we'd come in here and bring the show to you live and talk about. Well, it's Open Line Monday. It's it's the first Monday of the month. But this is where we invite you to call in and ask questions regarding your health, because that's what this show is all about, trying to help you live a healthier lifestyle. And our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. You can call your question in, pass it along to our producer, and they will pass it along to us. So happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah. And just to let everybody know, even though we are live this morning, we are not open today.
Correct.
So that's one thing we did want everybody to know, just so they say, oh, they must be going to be open today. We're not. So we are closed because, of course, all the employees definitely like the day off, and so everybody's going to be having a really good 4th of July.
Yeah. We'll be back in the office on normal hours tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Bright and early tomorrow morning.
Bright and early tomorrow.
And again, maybe I should tell people that this week, of course, we'll be there our normal Tuesday and Thursday, but Dr. Bull is out this week, and we have a fill-in doctor on Wednesday and Friday. So if you want to talk to one of the doctors you normally talk to, you might want to come in on Tuesday and Thursday this week.
That's it.
But I mean, there is a fill-in doctor, so he can answer questions if you have it. But Dr. May will be there.
Yeah.
But we will be there Tuesday, Thursday, and Dr. Bull is out all week. He's at a seminar, learning more information.
Hopefully.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So anyway, as I said, this is Open Line Monday, so any questions you might have regarding your health, please feel free to call in and ask. And as we age, what sort of things should we be more aware of in our health and just kind of watch out for?
Anything that's abnormal, any symptom that you start developing that's not normal for you, pay attention to it. Catch it early. It's like anything. If you catch it early enough, typically you can take care of it, whatever it is, even something like cancer, for goodness sakes. But you have to catch it early. You can't ignore it. You know, the 5 most dangerous words in the world, maybe it will go away. Yeah. And it most likely won't. So unless you do something, it's probably going to get worse. So, anything that's just abnormal, do that. Pay attention to that.
And as you age, it is more important to take care of yourself. Now, you want to take care of yourself at any age, and even start as a kid. But, it is more important as you get older. And I hear every day from people when we do lab work, they'll say, well, that don't run in my family, or I hadn't had that. I was like, well, you do now. So it's time to do something about it.
We see that a lot.
People think that it can't happen, or whatever it is, whether it's diabetes, whether it's all kind of inflammation markers, whether it's whatever. They think, well, it can't happen. Well, it can. And so it's best to take care of yourself and be healthy and do your lab work every year. Get your yearly full lab work, not just a little bit like most people have, but a full lab work to see if anything's changed.
Just like you said, just because it doesn't run in the family doesn't mean that you can't get it.
I hear that so often.
The thing about it is, look at the modern diet. Our modern food supply, and I think some month or so ago we talked about the study they found in California where something like 109 different chemicals in the food supply. 109. Now, great-grandma and grandpa, they didn't have that. They just did not have that. It was not there. They didn't have things that are what we call forever chemicals. Now we do.
This morning I was reading that article about the soil being contaminated.
Yeah, even the soil.
And they say people know if they have bad air quality, but people don't think about the soil around them. And it talked about the pesticides, the heavy metals, the plastic stuff that gets in the soil, and how bad that it is for the cardiovascular system, and how it actually damages the inside lining of the arteries. And so if you're one of those that spray pesticides all over the place, I mean, that's actually, you're coming in direct contact. It's even bad to be in the soil where you are, much less being in contact and breathing it in.
Yeah, I think that's the scary part, when you look at the amount of chemicals that we're exposed to, and she mentioned plastics. And there's been some, in the past 6 months to a year, there's been some really nice articles come out. There've been some really powerful articles come out about microplastics. And they're showing up at everybody. Microplastics, I'm sure we've got them. Because, if you think about it, you go to the grocery store or something, everything's wrapped in plastic. It's in some sort of plastic. So, what do we say? Anywhere you go, plastics are everywhere.
And plastics are endocrine disruptors.
And they are.
So when you think about what's an endocrine, that's your endocrine system, which is your hormones, anything that's a hormone. Thyroid, your adrenals, your sex hormones, your all that, brain, some things that are put out by all the hormones. Are affected by these plasticizers.
I had someone, a friend of mine the other day had walked in with a bottle of water that she had gotten out of her car, and it was very warm. And she says, well, I just keep a case of water in the trunk of my car when I want some water. And I said, you can't,
you shouldn't do that.
You shouldn't
keep that in there. You don't want to purposefully do it. It has to have been shipped, and it might have been in there at one time, but you definitely do not want to drink hot plastic.
I mean, even if you take a cold bottle of water and you get in your car and you go off somewhere and you spend the day or whatever, and you still leaving that bottle of water in your car without drinking it all, and it gets hot by the end of the day.
Yep, that does make a difference.
It's not good for you. No, I know the water that we get in and keep in the store and so on.
It comes in
a refrigerated truck,
right?
With a lot of other stuff, and so it's refrigerated, and I'm sure their warehouse is at least halfway climate controlled, at least. And of course, even if we just got it sitting in the store, she keeps it at about 70 degrees or less. So, it's cool, I'll promise you. People ask me why I wear a long sleeve shirt all year. Stand there. I mean, when it's 70 degrees, 65.
That's why it's nice and cold in your house.
It's cold,
and I don't wear long sleeves even in the winter. So,
true.
Wow.
Opposite.
We have a question, and it's funny because I had a question emailed to me kind of along the same line here. I have a friend who is showing signs of dementia. Are there any supplements that I can take to help with this? Because I had gotten a question that here recently we had talked about things that you can do to reduce your risk.
Right.
Somebody wanted to know, would you mind repeating that again? So,
well, when you start thinking about that, the two big things that come up are, of course, the omega-3 fatty acids, which we talk about a lot. And recently, within the past year or so, probiotics.
Yeah.
Because that gut and brain, we talked about the gut-brain connection, a week or so?
Yeah, last week, yeah.
But I always say you start with doing some lab work.
Yes.
And you do lab work to actually see if there's any underlying problems. A thyroid issue makes memory loss. An adrenal issue can make memory loss. A B12 deficiency absolutely causes all kind of brain problems, and so does folic acid deficiency. Homocysteine being high, horrible for the brain. So you have
not good for the heart either.
High triglycerides are not good for the brain. I mean, so you got to look at if there's any problems. Actually, an iron deficiency. If you don't get an oxygen to the brain, it's going to make a difference. First thing is to rule out underlying problems.
Yeah.
You fix all the underlying problems, then there's a lot of things you can take for memory. I mean, we have Memory Core, Memory Pro. We have one that Brain Reset. We have, phosphatidylserine, acetyl-L-carnitine. There are so many things you can take for brain function. But I always say start with you because individuals are different. So and if anxiety is an issue, the Brain Reset does work really well.
All right. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. We have more questions for you coming up. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It's our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. We're taking calls about anything because it's Open Line Monday. Someone called in. Do you have any products that can help with hair rejuvenation?
Yes.
Actually, we do.
We do.
Yeah, we've actually got a formula called Hair, Skin, and Nails.
Right. And that's always what a lot of people go through is those formulas that have your biotin and your collagen and your different things like that. And those are all good by themselves as well. But another thing that people don't think about as much for hair, and we just talked about it again a minute ago for the brain, is omega-3s. Even in a lot of animal, like dogs, if they're losing their hair, the veterinarians will tell them to put them on fish oil because it makes a difference in the hair coming out at the root. And it also oils you from the inside, gives you those good omega-3s, makes your hair have more shine and more luster to it. And they're, Americans are deficient in omega-3s.
Yeah.
So I always say, omega-3s are one of the big things for the hair that people don't think about. Now, there's no doubt collagen, and we have a lot of different collagen products.
We do.
Yeah, I should have known that a while back.
Yeah. Well, male pattern baldness is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
That's a genetic thing.
Yeah, it's genetics. And I don't know that you can take all the stuff in the world and be a big difference in that.
And one of the things about hair too is protein. A lot of people definitely. We see that they're doing everything in the world but eating enough protein. And that, especially as we get a little bit advanced in age, people for some reason just shut down on the protein, and you got to have protein for hair.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question, do you carry NADH? I was recommended this product. Could you give me any information about it?
I don't even think we keep it anymore.
We don't keep it anymore. We used to, but then it would go out of date because not a lot of people would take it. But what we use a lot more for people is the NMN.
Yeah. Nicotinamide mononucleotide.
Yeah.
And when you start, yeah, I know. It's,
Exactly.
what? When you start looking at NADH, what you're trying to do is increase mitochondrial function. Okay.
ATP production.
ATP. Okay. So
Yep.
the energy for the cell. And when you look at that and you get into the biochemistry of it, NADH is like a football field away from it. When you want NMN, or the nucleotide that's directly related, and it's a niacin compound like NADH, but what it is, it's right there before the start of that process that makes that ATP. And the research on the NMN is humongous.
Yeah.
NADH has been probably around a little bit longer as far as the knowledge base on it and so on, but we find an awful lot of people that will buy it, they'll take it one time.
Yep, and they don't retake
and they
it.
never reorder. I've yet to put anybody on NMN so far.
But don't come back and get it again.
They always come back and get it. And I always tell people, that's how you tell.
Well, you can tell a difference, yeah.
If you can feel a difference, and they'll come back and say, well, I'm going to have more of that stuff, whereas some of these things, they'll try it one time and say, I didn't really
like
feel any
even
difference.
ourselves, we take the NMN,
Yeah.
and for years we take a lot. So
We
we
do.
do take a lot. And I took NADH in the past, couldn't tell a difference. I took Niacin for a while, and Niacin they call it, or which is a different step closer. I couldn't tell a difference.
Yeah.
NMN is even another step closer. I told a huge difference within a few days. So I could tell a big difference in energy levels, and most people can't.
Yeah.
So that's one that we use, and yes, we do have that. So we have the NMN, we do not have the NADH, and if you want to come in, we'll talk about it more.
And we can get
And a
you
lot
some
of
the research on it.
anti-aging on both. But the ATP production is the big thing that they're all do to help the mitochondria.
Yeah, there's a guru, if you will, up at Harvard. His name is Sinclair, David Sinclair. Dr. Sinclair has probably done more research on the mitochondria, the function of the mitochondria, anti-aging, you name it, and he is the one that's telling us, all the research, and there's stacks of it. The research is all pointing toward getting closer to that ATP production, and the way you do that, NMN.
And another thing, and we don't mention it all the time, but the red light therapy.
Yes.
We do have red light therapy at our office, but it is one that you don't take. Of course, you lay in the red light, and it definitely has been shown tons. I had somebody the other day said, man, I'll look that up, and it has thousands of research papers
Really?
that it does.
It does.
There is so much that they've researched for red light therapy, an increase in ATP production and actually function of the mitochondria. And even the person that mentioned dementia earlier, it does a lot with dementia. And we've had
Really
people,
does.
yeah, it does. So it makes a difference in the brain, it makes a difference in, it really is good for overall health. So that's kind of one reason we got it, because we wanted it.
Well, we looked at, anything that we get in there, we're going to, if we bring it in, it's one of those things that, we've looked at it and looked at it and looked at the research, and when the research becomes overwhelming, it's like you cannot deny this, absolutely, then it might be time to look into it, and that's kind of what the red light therapy was. We looked at it for years, and a new article would come up, it's like, dang, that stuff really looks good, doesn't it?
One of our customers that her husband couldn't get in and out of the machine, and so I told her which panel to buy. I told her, because there are some home units that aren't near as strong. And she can't believe the difference. She was telling me the other day. She was like, oh my God, I know it ain't near as strong as what y'all have. And he has Parkinson's. And she said he can walk again. And he was not able to walk. So we've had a lot of people that's had some pretty remarkable stuff from red light.
Parkinson's particularly. We've had several.
Well, there's a lot of research for it. And so that's why she really wanted him to do it, but he couldn't get in and out of our, because to do ours, you do have to be able to get in and out on your own.
Right.
And because we don't have anybody that can pick people up, and and it looks like a tanning bed, so you have to be able to get in and out of that yourself to be able to do it. And so, and if you can't get in and out of it, that is definitely the best thing, is to do the higher strength units like that. There are some panels that you can buy for home. There's a lot out there. Some of them are not very good. So
we can tell you which ones
exactly.
that too.
Okay. Jill asked, it said, lately I've got no energy. Is my body lacking something?
Most likely.
Probably yes. And again, it can be, I mean, Jill's a female. It can be an iron deficiency. We see a lot of that, especially in women still having cycles. But again, it could be somebody after menopause. We don't know. But definitely doing lab work. When somebody, lack of energy is such a common symptom, and it can be anything. So that's another one that can be adrenals, thyroid, iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, stress.
Adrenals,
it can be, exactly. So there's so many things that it can be. That's when you do lab work.
Yep.
See what it shows.
Okay. All right. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. We have a few questions that have been emailed in. We're going to get to those in just a few moments. And also this week's special. Well, welcome back. It's our final segment this morning. Our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We have a question. I have arthritis in my hands and feet. In the morning, it is almost impossible for me to make a fist, and I get a lot of cramps. The anti-inflammatory medicine I've been taking doesn't seem to work anymore. Is there anything else I can take to help?
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems with the typical anti-inflammatory medications block both types of, we got two types of inflammation, COX-1, COX-2, and they typically block both. And part of that inflammatory cycle is to repair and rebuild. Well, if you block it and you keep blocking it, you don't repair. And that's one of the issues. That's where we use the SPMs. And we've talked about those before. They're kind of a specialized pro-resolving mediator. Come from, if you will, a derivative of fish oil. But they absolutely help resolve the inflammation and promote the healing process.
Right, and we can actually see it when people have the high inflammation markers on their lab work. It definitely brings it down better than anything we've ever used.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things out there they say help inflammation, and there are a lot of natural products that actually help inflammation, but it has been shown to be the best for those inflammation markers. Now, also we use something called Pertamax, which is just for arthritis. It actually helps keep down further degeneration. It does have boswellia in it, MSM in it, which both actually help inflammation as well. So those two together would probably be where I started.
Right.
If it is rheumatoid, it's a little bit different, because then we start using things like the Olivir, which is for autoimmune. And so it just depends on what kind it is. And if you don't know if it might be autoimmune, our pain panel does check all that. Our pain panel does all your inflammation markers. It looks for everything else that we ever talk about, like your thyroid, because that affects joints.
Oh, everything.
It does your adrenals. It does your DHEA, which plays a huge role in inflammation as you get older. So it checks all that, but again, it also checks ANA, which looks for lupus, things like that, RA factor, looks for muscle breakdown. So I mean, there's a lot of things our pain panel does, and the pain panel is like 225, and it really makes sure there's not other underlying things that you don't know about causing it.
Right, okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at this week's special, if we would, and you just mentioned that, Olivir.
Yep, the Olivir, we use it a lot, and it's one that we don't have on special a lot, but it is probably one of our biggest selling products. And I did have one of our viewers last week that called our office, and she actually asked if we would put that on sale. So she's like, I've been waiting for that to go on sale so I can get some, and I was like, okay. So we did. So the Olivir, we have used it for years. It's one of our oldest products, and it's one of the best things to me. It is antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasite, and the research on it is so good.
Yes,
it also has been shown to help blood pressure both high and low. And they think it's because, they're not really sure 100% why, they think it might be because it helps the nanobacteria around the heart, and it can actually it just helps overall health. And so the Olivir, we use it for autoimmune problems, which I mentioned, just a minute ago, because a lot of autoimmune problems are your body trying to attack something that's in the body that you don't want there. And it suppresses it. Now, a lot of viruses and things that get in you can't kill it, but you can suppress them. We use it a lot for EBV, Epstein-Barr virus. We use it in big shingles. Honestly, we have tons of people come in that's had shingles and they won't go away, and they can't believe how well Olivir works. So that is one that we have used for years for so many things. Skin disorders, acne in kids. I mean, you start looking, aloe vera is good for so many different things.
It's something you need in your medicine chest.
It does. Everybody needs to have it on hand, because if you start getting sick too, if you start getting a cold, or it's good to start popping it instantly.
Yeah.
So that's something that, and we do even give it to kids, getting it in them sometimes if they can't swallow pills as hard, because it does not taste good.
Nope.
But it can be used in kids as well.
Okay. I had a question emailed to me. Joe asks, hypertension runs in my family. Now my blood pressure is fine. I'm 52 years old. Is there anything I can do to keep from carrying on the family tradition? Must be a Hank Jr. fan.
Yeah.
Well, you know, okay, Joe. If you're at 52 and you haven't developed, you know, that's a good sign. The thing you want to do now is you know, get healthy as fast as you possibly can. And you might think, well, gee, I'm really healthy. Do the lab work she was talking about, that kind of thing. Find out. You know, it's sort of like taking your car to the dealer, they plug it in a computer and it tells them what's wrong. All right, well, the lab work kind of going to do the same thing for you.
Yeah.
You can't just think, well, gee, I feel okay.
But I would do the expanded cardiac panel
Yes.
is what you'd want to do for
Yes.
that one. For one, homocysteine runs in families. It does not matter how healthy you are. It doesn't matter if you exercise can make it higher.
Yes.
And if you know it's there, it is easy to lower with nutrients.
Right.
So the thing is you want to know what underlying problems is there, especially if things are in your family. Another thing if you have high blood pressure in the family, you absolutely have to keep your weight down.
Yes.
Now, weight is not 100% always a problem, but it's a huge factor when it comes to blood pressure. Losing weight, we see many people, they say, oh my gosh, once I lost weight, I had to go back to my doctor because they had to adjust my medications. Exactly. So if you do lose a lot of weight, most people do have to go back to their doctor and get adjusted, because it does drop your blood pressure to lose weight.
Got a dear friend of ours, you know, I've told him for years, you know, you need to lose a little weight. Well, he started losing weight. And sure enough, his blood pressure started dropping and it got too low. And of course, he takes me up, you know, what do I do? Okay, go back to your doctor. You need to start cutting back on that medication. And sure enough, that's what they've done. And you know, he can't believe it because he's been on medication for a long time.
Yeah.
So it really does. People think, and 10 pounds can make a difference. And if it's in their family, you actually you need to be thin.
Thin.
You don't need to just be, well, I'm not obese.
Right.
You got to be really thin to keep down problems. One reason he's really thin, because it runs in his family.
Yeah.
And so that's he has to stay pretty thin to keep his down.
Yeah.
All right. Mary asks, all of a sudden I feel hungry all the time. I'm eating my usual 3 meals a day, but snacking a lot in between. Could I have a thyroid issue?
You could have that.
Actually, rather than thyroid, that's not necessarily make you hungry all the time. The things that probably make you hungrier are either high insulin, which is what you're eating, triggers an insulin response, and then makes you hungrier again. So it's a never-ending thing. The more you eat, the more you're hungry, and then it's a never-ending circle. And then having high cortisol, which is a stress hormone, also makes you hungry. So those are the two biggies. So do the lab work, see where it shows.
Yep, that's it.
All right.
Yep.
I constantly move around with exercising or walking. Then I sit down and eventually stand up. My joints get stiff and stay stiff. Is there anything I can take to help make my joints not stiff? What can help with a fatty liver?
Okay,
Two questions.
Yep, the stiff joints, real quick. Pernimax, that thing we mentioned earlier, definitely makes a difference in stiff joints, and especially if you overuse them, like an overuse type thing. SPM wouldn't hurt either.
No.
Now, for the fatty liver, we have something called a Natto E300, and it is a tocotrienol. Tons of research for fatty liver, so look it up because we're running out of time. So, but definitely call the office and we can talk about it more.
Okay. Next week, talking about.
We're talking about childhood obesity, which is something that we haven't talked about before, and I'm not sure why, because it's getting bigger and it definitely needs to be talked about.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really big problem.
And I did want to stress again, if you weren't here at the beginning of this, we're not there today, and we will be there Tuesday, Thursday, and Dr. Bull is out, but we'll have a fill-in doctor this week.
All right. Well, have a wonderful 4th of July. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next Monday morning here on WLOX CBS.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.